And here to our left hand side, we have a stock air filter box with a paper filter on the inside. Whenever you want to actually upgrade your intake system, they will advise you to get something like this. What is this? This is a heat shield. It basically blocks off all the heat from the engine on the one side, and the other side is all the cold air that comes in gets sucked straight into the air filter, and obviously being open, it can just suck in as much air as it wants. And then we have got my own little contraption, which is the Audi A4 intake box with a little bit of sauce on the inside. It's got a cone filter. So we're gonna test all three these intakes same day, obviously not the same time, but I'm gonna try to move as quick as I can with the same temperature, atmospheric pressure and everything to try and see which one will perform the best. How are we going to know which one performs the best? Basically, we're going to data log a bunch of things, but two things are really important. Thing number one is our MAF reading. So that's basically to see how much air goes through the MAF, through the MAF sensor. That will tell us how restrictive is the paper filter. Or because this box is smaller with only this small little opening, will it get enough air into it? Secondly, the other thing we'll test is our intake air temperature. So we all know our engine heats up, our turbo heats up, and the air filter must try to suck as much cold air in as possible. So the intake air temps will tell us, are these filter boxes or these upgrades or whatever the case is, are they really getting as much cold air in as possible? So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the stock air filter box. Let me get it installed, and we're going to go and log. I'll be wasting a lot of fuel today because I'm going to do a lot of runs. I'm going to do 6 runs, 2 runs per air intake box. I'm only going to log the second pull. Reason for that is I want to use the first pull to get everything up to temperature, get everything nice and warm, and then we can actually see how good the air filter performs when there's already heat in the system. So I've already done my first pull. We're going to go now and do the second pull for the first stock air intake box. And here we go. First third gear pull. Car pulls good like always, and just a little bit above 6,000 RPMs. Okay, so let's quickly head back home and we're going to install the upgraded air intake system now. Alright, let's start the third log. Here we go, turning into the road. Foot to the floor. Already I can tell there's much more suction noise, even the dump is a little bit better. In general, this air filter upgrade kit is very nice to the ears, but is it really good with performance wise? So let's quickly go back home, just stop the log. Let's go back home and get the third intake system installed, and then we'll do a proper review with all 3 of them next to each other. Let's quickly do our third and final log. Log started, foot to the floor. Car feels great. And slightly before 7,000, maybe about 6,700, 6,800, whatever the case is. Okay, so let's quickly go home and revise all 3. I just quickly got to do some errands and stuff. I've got the 3 videos. Even if I do the last part tonight, 100% fine. Okay, let's quickly go. I finally had some time to sit down nicely and overlook these 3 logs. I'm very shocked. I'm like totally blown away. I'm sitting here not knowing what I'm going to do next. So it's very shocking, and also it actually triggered something which I'm going to show you guys at the end, which is a little bit of a bonus content. So when we're going to look at these logs, we're going to look at our intake air temps, the less, the better. We're also going to look at our MAF sensor reading. So that is basically showing us how restrictive the air filter is, because your car, I didn't change the tune, nothing. The car was exactly the same, sucking the same amount of, asking the same boost and everything. So it shows us how restrictive the air filter is. The more grams per second it can get through the air filter going through that sensor, that means obviously the less restrictive the filter is and the better it is for airflow. So we're going to look at our intake air temps and our mass airflow reading. So looking at our first chart, before I continue, I just want to show you guys quickly the ambient air temp. So when I did the first log, which was for my the stock air filter box, it was 22 degrees Celsius. Let's quickly look at the other two as well so we can get it over and done with. So the other one was 23 and the other one was also 23 degrees Celsius. So this shows us that the quick time period that I actually did it, that the temperature for as the day went and the temperature increases through the day, I was able to do it with only 1 degree of ambient air temperature change. I was pushing. Honestly, I was really, really pushing. So then also, last thing, I know it's last thing on last thing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the stock air filter box, so our first log. I'm going to show you our first log. Then I'm going to show you our third log because I want to keep the two boxes next to each other just for a better comparison. And then lastly, I'm going to show you the one with the no box, with the heat shield of the cone filter sticking out. Okay, let's quickly start off this video, this part of the video, and look at our intake air temp. So if you look at this block over here, you'll see the red is our RPM. So as we step on it, the RPMs goes all the way up till about here, which is just over for 6,700 RPMs. So we started off this this log with a 31 degrees Celsius. Once again, it's our stock log, and it's also 1 degree colder than the other two logs. I think what we're going to do is make it fair. We're going to add 1 degree to this entire chart, okay? So our intake air temp is 31 degrees Celsius, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to stroll through it. It went to 30, it went to 31, and this is basically the part where I set my foot down. And as you can see, as the RPMs increases, the intake air temps also started to increase here just before 4,600 RPMs, and it was here at its peak, which is basically 39 degrees Celsius. So make it 40 degrees Celsius. So that means we went from 31 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius, which is basically 8 degrees Celsius of where our intake air temps increased. I know this is more to blame on your intercooler than mostly your air filter box, but I feel that it is very important to see how much of the heat, as your engine bay heats up, as the turbo heats up, as the manifold and all those kind of things, the downpipe heats up, how it can actually closes off that heat and not suck that heat in. So there we can see it went up with 8 degrees Celsius. So let's quickly look at our mass sensor reading. So it's this dark blue one over here. So as the RPMs increase, we're going to quickly look for the highest point. And it is, here it is, 210.09 grams per second. Really a good number. That is fantastic, okay? Especially for my car. So we got 210 grams per second of air flowing past the mass sensor. So we got to remember that. The intake air temps went up with 8 degrees Celsius, and then also the mass sensor reading was 210. So let's quickly go to our third log, which was the S4 box. And we started it off with 32 degrees Celsius, which is 32 degrees on the other one as well. And you can see, we can even say 33 if you really have to. 33, 32, 33, 32. We can say 33, it's fine. So it went all the way as the RPMs increased. It also started to increase. And then here at its peak, it was at 42 degrees Celsius. So that means we went from 33 to 42, which is 9 degrees Celsius. And if you want to be lenient, if you want to be really calm, we can go with the 32, which means it is 10 degrees. No, that's even worse. We'll go with the 33. Whatever. It went up with 9 or 10 degrees Celsius, which means it's not bad. I just want you guys to take in consideration that I went to go do 2 pulls, came back, changed the air filter box, 2 pulls, came back, air filter box, which is this log, went back for another 2 pulls. I mean, the car was heated up. It was heat soaking. It's in the middle of the day. It's starting to get summer here and all those kind of things. So it shows you that this air filter box of the S4 can actually really keep the high heat out, which is magnificent, okay? So let's quickly look at the mass sensor readings. So as you can see here, it increased to the highest point, which is basically here. Let's see if we can get more. There we go, 195. We can say 196, 195, doesn't matter. That means our cone filter blocked out 15 grams per second less. Well, it has 15 grams per second less than the stock paper filter. Just to show you, our maximum was 195.95 grams per second, and our first log of the paper filter was 210. So that means our paper filter is less restrictive than our cone filter. And the crazy part about this entire thing is that the paper filter actually is a better protection
than the cone filter itself. So it allows more air to flow through it. And at the same time, it protects your engine more. So now I'm like, I just bought the S4 intake box, and now the stock intake box looks much better. Okay, so now you guys are probably saying, okay, wait, there must have been something wrong with that log, right? Because 195.95, 196 doesn't sound right. It's supposed to have more air. So then we're going to go to log number 3. That's basically where I had the heat shield, okay? Now, that heat shield didn't have any vents or anything just going to it. It could have sucked in air from everywhere. So certainly it has to be a little bit more, right? So let's quickly have a look at it. So right over here, the RPMs increased till our max, which is right over here, 197.56 grams per second. That's like 2 grams per second more. I mean, what is that? 2 grams per second more. So this is just a second log confirming that the cone filter actually had less air flowing through the MAF sensor than the paper filter. I'm mind blown. How is that possible? And then at the same time, let's quickly look at the intake air temp. So we started off at 34 or 33, whatever you want to do. Let's go 34, and it went up to a peak of 44. So that's 10 degrees. So we saw 8 degrees on the stock filter box, 9 degrees on the S4 box, and 10 degrees on the cone filter. So basically what the intake air temps are telling us is that whenever the car, as long as the car is in movement, it's fine. The air going through the intercooler, through the grill, and all that kind of stuff, it keeps on getting sucked in proper good air. So it's not just sucking all the hot air in from the engine bay. So that's ticked. Okay, so that is sorted. But the thing that blows me off is this grams per second, where the paper filter is less restrictive. That's mind-blowing. So now what I'm thinking of doing is actually getting the stock S4 MAF sensor to make it fit properly in that box. And then when I get the stock S4, what do you call it? Stock S4 air filter, which is basically like a cone filter, but it's also like a paper filter kind of thingy. So I want to get one of them and then test it again and see if I just wasted my money or not. And then also what you can do is you can get different cone filter brands like AEM or K and N and all of these kind of things, and maybe you can get more grams per second to do that. But in my case, I am not. Mind-blowing. So let me quickly show you guys one of the reasons why I left this second pull with the heat shield, why I actually went away from that certain place. Even I've noticed back then when I was running it, I always start off my logs with my intake air temps like at 40s and 50s and 40s, then always like drops into the, like, let's say it's 50s, it drops into the 40s. When it's 40s, it just like remains in the 40s and so forth. So here is actually one of my friend's logs. He also has the cone filter, but after I told him and showed him about this entire experiment that I'm doing, he actually also went and put his stock filter back. So here you can see his intake air temp started at 48 degrees Celsius, and as he accelerated, it dropped right over here to 30 degrees Celsius. So he actually has the A4, the 1.8 turbo B8, and he has the A7 intercooler on it, which is obviously a bit better. That's why his graph is going down. So his graph dropped to 18 degrees Celsius, which is just amazing. But imagine if he started at 48 degrees Celsius every time. Imagine if he started at 30 degrees Celsius. So where will it drop? Maybe into the 20s, 18s, 17s? We really don't know. So there's another log I quickly want to show you. So this is basically when my friend put his paper filter back with the stock filter after I told him about it, and he sent me literally today, he sent me this log where he shows me basically his car has reached 215 grams per second. So just to clear it up, he has a 2018 A4 B8.5, and yeah, it's the 1.8 turbo, if I didn't mention, I think I did. So it's a CDH motor, where mine is a CDN motor. So anyway, his turbo is also hybrided, and he got 5 grams per second more than me, but he is running like 0.2 bar more boost than I am. So, so anyway, but he still got 215 grams per second from that stock air filter box. And unfortunately, I cannot show you a log where he showed me with his cone filter how much his grams per second was, but he did actually have a video on OBD11 and he only saw like 180 something. Crazy. It's crazy how the cone filters are more restrictive, because anyone you ask, you've got to do tuning and what have you done to your car, they always say you got to do your intake air system first, you know. It's one of the first things that any person does, modifications to their car, and it's crazy to see that it's actually a bit more restrictive. Ridiculous. Anyway, guys, there we go. So I hope this was a lot of info for you to take in. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this type of videos where we do some comparisons of all those kind of things. Let me know. And any suggestions, please do give it to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.